Remember the Alamo? John Wayne did. For 13 years, he couldn't forget it. What started as a patriotic dream turned into a financial nightmare where the director mortgaged his house, stars showed up drunk, and one actor nearly died from heat stroke in a coonskin cap. These are 20 weird facts about the Alamo. And the bonus? Wait until you hear what happened to the massive fort they built. It's still standing, but what it became will shock you. Let's ride into history. John Wayne didn't just star in the Alamo, he bled for it. For 13 years, he carried the script in his back pocket, pitching it to every studio in Hollywood. Warner Brothers said no. MGM laughed him out of the room. United Artists told him it was too expensive, too risky, too long. But Wayne wouldn't quit. This wasn't just another Western to him. It was personal. He saw the Alamo as the ultimate symbol of American courage, a story that needed to be told his way, with his vision under his control. So when the studios kept refusing, he made a decision that terrified everyone around him. He'd directed himself. Wayne had never directed a major film before. He had no experience behind the camera on this scale, but he didn't care. He mortgaged his house, sold off assets, and poured his own money into pre-production. Friends warned him. Colleagues called it career suicide. His business manager begged him to walk away, but John Wayne was all in. By the time cameras rolled, he wasn't just making a movie. He was betting everything he had on a dream that Hollywood didn't believe in. And once production started, there was no turning back. Most films build sets. The Alamo built a city. Wayne didn't want a Hollywood backlot or a cheap replica. He wanted the real thing. So in the empty scrubland outside Brackettville, Texas, construction crews spent over 2 years erecting a full-scale recreation of the Alamo mission and the entire surrounding village. We're not talking about facades or false fronts. These were actual buildings. Stone walls 3 feet thick, hand-carved wooden doors, working wells, authentic period architecture down to the smallest detail. The fort alone covered over 7 acres. They built cantinas, homes, churches, stables, all historically accurate, all functional. The budget for construction ballooned to over $1.5 million before a single actor stepped on set. The studio panicked. Accountants flew in from Los Angeles demanding explanations. But Wayne stood firm. He told them if they wanted authentic, this was the price. And he was right. When the crew finally finished, what stood in the Texas desert wasn't just a movie set. It was a monument. Visitors started showing up before filming even began. Tourists driving hours just to see it. Local officials considered it a landmark. And Wayne walked through those streets like he'd stepped back in time. He wasn't just directing a movie anymore. He was living inside history, commanding his own private. 1836. The set became so iconic that after filming wrapped, it stayed standing. Today, it's a tourist attraction called Alamo Village, where tens of thousands visit every year. John Wayne built more than a movie. He built a legacy you can still walk through. Wayne wanted the biggest names in Hollywood, but he couldn't afford them all. So he went to Richard Widmark with a proposal that sounded insane. Play Jim Bowie for scale. Widmark was a major star, an actor who commanded serious money. He could have said no and walked away. Instead, he read the script, looked Wayne in the eye, and agreed. Not for the paycheck, for the role. Widmark saw something in Bowie that excited him. A dying man with a knife. A legend. A fighter who wouldn't quit even when his body gave out. He took the part for a fraction of his usual fee because he believed in the film. And once Widmark signed, others followed. Lawrence Harvey came aboard as William Travis, also for less than his quote. These weren't desperate actors looking for work. They were established stars making sacrifices because they respected Wayne's vision. It was rare then, and almost impossible now. But that's how badly Wayne sold the dream. He convinced them that being part of the Alamo mattered more than the money, and in a strange way, he was right. Decades later, people still remember Widmark's Bowie, still quote his lines, still talk about the weight he brought to a man facing death with a blade in his hand. The paychecks faded, the performance lasted forever. Filming in the Texas desert wasn't romantic, it was brutal. Temperatures soared past 110 degrees daily. There was no air conditioning on set, no modern cooling systems, just shade tents and warm water. Actors wore heavy period costumes, wool jackets, leather boots, thick hats. Extras dressed as Mexican soldiers fainted in formation. Crew members collapsed from heat exhaustion, and John Wayne, wearing layers of buckskin as Davy Crockett, refused to stop. He pushed through every take, every scene, sweat pouring down his face, his voice going hoarse from shouting directions between shots. The coonskin cap alone nearly killed him. Made of real fur, it trapped heat like an oven. His head throbbed, his vision blurred. Medics stood by with ice packs and oxygen, but Wayne wouldn't take it off. He believed if Crockett wore it in 1836, he'd wear it in 1960. That stubborn authenticity nearly cost him everything. One afternoon, mid-scene, Wayne staggered. His legs buckled. He caught himself on a wooden post, waved off the medics, and kept filming. Later, a doctor told him he'd been minutes from heat stroke. Wayne just laughed and said, "Crockett didn't quit, neither will I." That mentality spread through the cast. If the Duke could survive, so could they. The heat didn't stop, but neither did they. The Alamo wasn't just a Western, it was a political statement, and John Wayne knew it. In 1960, America was deep in a Cold War. Fear of communism saturated every headline. Wayne, a staunch conservative and vocal anti-communist, saw the Alamo story as the perfect metaphor. A small group of free men standing against overwhelming tyranny, choosing death over surrender. He poured that ideology into every frame. The dialogue dripped with freedom rhetoric. Characters gave speeches about liberty, sacrifice, and the price of independence. Critics noticed immediately. Some praised it as patriotic, others slammed it as propaganda. The film became a lightning rod. Conservatives loved it, liberals mocked it. Wayne didn't care. He wore his politics on his sleeve and dared anyone to challenge him. He even took out full-page ads in newspapers defending the film's message, calling it a story every American should see. The controversy boosted attention, but also created backlash. Some theaters refused to screen it. Protest groups picketed openings. But Wayne stood firm, just like the men he portrayed. To him, the Alamo wasn't just entertainment. It was a lesson, a reminder, a warning. And whether audiences agreed or not, they couldn't ignore it. The film forced a conversation. And in Wayne's mind, that made it worth every controversial second.
But he does know the short way to start a war.
Richard Widmark and John Wayne clashed constantly. On camera, they played allies. Off camera, they were barely civil. The tension started early. Widmark was a method actor, meticulous, precise, always searching for deeper emotional truth. Wayne was old school, instinctive, learning lines the night before and trusting his gut. Their approaches couldn't have been more different, and when Wayne stepped behind the camera as director, the friction intensified. Widmark questioned everything: blocking, dialogue, motivation, tone. Wayne wanted to move fast, shoot, and keep the production on schedule. But Widmark slowed things down, asking for more takes, more time, more freedom to explore the character. Wayne saw it as indulgence. Widmark saw it as professionalism. The arguments got loud. Crew members stepped back when they started going at it. One afternoon, Widmark demanded a scene be rewritten. Wayne refused. Widmark threatened to walk. Wayne told him to try it. They stood nose to nose, neither backing down, until finally they compromised. The scene stayed, but Widmark got his extra take. That became the pattern: fight, compromise, move forward. Neither man liked it, but both respected each other enough to make it work. And somehow, that tension bled into their performances. The friction between Bowie and Crockett on screen felt real because off-screen, it was. Two alpha personalities locked in a creative battle that somehow made the film better. Wayne later admitted Widmark pushed him to be a better director. Widmark admitted Wayne taught him to trust his instincts. They never became friends, but they made something unforgettable together. The battle scenes weren't safe. They were chaos. With hundreds of extras, real cannons and live explosives, the final siege of the Alamo turned into a controlled disaster. Stuntmen climbed walls, fell from rooftops, dodged pyrotechnics. Some got hurt, burns. One stunt coordinator, another extra suffered a fractured wrist during a sword fight that went too hard. Wayne pushed for realism, and realism came with a cost. There were no digital effects, no CGI blood. Everything had to be practical, real, viscerally dangerous. And Wayne was right there in the middle of it. At 52 years old, overweight, and battling the Texas heat, he insisted on doing his own stunts. His insurance company threatened to pull coverage. The studio begged him to use a double. Wayne ignored them all. He climbed ladders, fired muskets, threw punches, and ran through explosions. His knees ached, his back screamed. But he refused to stop, because if the extras were risking their lives, he'd risk his too. That decision earned him loyalty. The crew saw their director bleeding alongside them, and they worked harder because of it. When the smoke cleared and the battle sequence wrapped, Wayne looked around at the bruised, exhausted faces surrounding him and said, "That's how they did it in 1836. That's how we do it now." The pain was real, the danger was real, and somehow that made the film feel real too. The Alamo's budget spiraled out of control. What started as a $7 million project exploded to over $12 million, making it one of the most expensive films ever made at the time. Every delay, every rainstorm, every retake cost thousands. The studio watched in horror as the numbers climbed. They sent auditors to the set, demanding explanations. Wayne showed them dailies, walked them through the fort, explained every dollar spent. But the truth was simple. Perfection costs money, and Wayne refused to compromise. When the weather turned bad, he waited instead of shooting in the rain. When a scene didn't feel right, he reshot it. When extras looked too clean, he hired more makeup artists to dirty them up. The studio threatened to shut down production. Wayne mortgaged more assets, borrowed from friends, leveraged everything he had to keep filming. At one point, he was personally liable for over $1 million. If the movie failed, he'd lose everything. His home, his savings, his career. Everyone around him knew it, and that pressure showed on his face. He stopped sleeping. He chain-smoked between takes. He lost weight despite the heat. But he never stopped pushing because stopping meant losing. And John Wayne didn't know how to lose. When the final bill came in, it was staggering. The studio executives looked at the numbers and quietly panicked. The Alamo would need to be one of the biggest hits in history just to break even, and nobody knew if audiences would even show up. John Wayne's obsession with historical accuracy went deep, but it also went wrong. He hired military historians, studied battle tactics, and pored over documents from 1836. He wanted every uniform, every weapon, every tactical decision to match the historical record. But here's the problem. History isn't always cinematic. The real Battle of the Alamo lasted only 90 minutes. The siege before it dragged on for 13 days of waiting, starving, and boredom. Wayne couldn't film that. Audiences wouldn't sit through it. So he compressed, rearranged, and dramatized. He invented dialogue, created composite characters, and staged moments that never happened. Historians noticed immediately. When the film premiered, they tore it apart. Letters poured in, pointing out inaccuracies. Davy Crockett probably didn't die swinging his rifle like a club. Jim Bowie likely died in bed, sick and barely conscious. William Travis wasn't the noble hero Wayne portrayed. He was younger, more reckless, more complicated. But Wayne didn't care. He wasn't making a documentary, he was making a myth. And myths require larger-than-life moments. So he gave Crockett a heroic last stand. He gave Bowie a knife fight. He gave Travis a dramatic final speech. The real history got bent, but the emotional truth, the sacrifice, the courage, that stayed intact. Critics called it revisionism. Wayne called it storytelling. And somewhere between the facts and the legend, the Alamo became something else entirely. Not history, but a mirror reflecting what Americans wanted to believe about themselves. During filming, one of the extras died. Not from a stunt, not from an explosion, but from a heart attack during a break between scenes. The man, a local Texan hired to play a Mexican soldier, collapsed in the shade. Medics rushed over, but it was too late. The crew stood in stunned silence as his body was carried away. Production shut down for the day. Wayne gathered everyone together and said a few words. Nobody remembers exactly what he said, but they remember how he looked, shaken, pale. For the first time since filming began, John Wayne seemed fragile. The next morning, they were back at it. The show had to go on. But something changed. The laughter between takes got quieter. The jokes stopped. Everyone moved a little more carefully, a little more aware that what they were doing mattered. That man came to set to be part of something bigger than himself. And in a strange way, he was. His name never appeared in the credits, but he was there in every frame of that final battle. A ghost in the background of history. Number 11. Lawrence Harvey hated Texas. The British actor arrived on set expecting Hollywood glamour and found dust, heat, and isolation instead. He complained constantly. The The food was too American, the accommodations too rustic, the other actors too crude. Harvey was a trained theatrical performer, classically educated, and he made sure everyone knew it. He'd recite Shakespeare between takes, critique other actors' techniques, and openly mock the cowboy mentality surrounding him. Wayne tolerated it at first, but one afternoon, Harvey made the mistake of insulting the film itself, calling it jingoistic American nonsense, within earshot of the crew. Wayne walked over slowly, deliberately. The set went silent. He stood inches from Harvey's face and said quietly, "You don't have to be here. There's a plane back to England anytime you want." Harvey went pale. He stammered an apology, but the damage was done. For the rest of filming, the crew froze him out. Nobody ate with him. Nobody invited him to downtime gatherings. Harvey spent his evenings alone in his trailer, isolated by his own arrogance. And yet, on screen, his performance as William Travis was electric. Cold, proud, aristocratic. Everything Harvey was in real life bled into the character. Wayne later admitted that casting Harvey was brilliant precisely because he brought that British superiority to Travis. The tension was real, the disdain was real, and somehow it made Travis feel authentic, a commander the men respected but never quite trusted. Harvey left Texas the day his scenes wrapped and never looked back, but his performance remained, a perfect accident born from genuine contempt. The horses suffered more than anyone admitted. With hundreds of animals on set for months, the conditions took their toll. The heat exhausted them, the battle scenes traumatized them. And the falls, those spectacular moments where horses tumbled during cavalry charges, those weren't always as controlled as they looked. Several horses broke legs during filming. Others developed infections from the dust and heat. One horse, used in a climactic death scene, refused to go down on cue. They tried take after take, but the animal kept standing, kept moving, completely ruining the shot. The wranglers grew frustrated. Wayne grew impatient. Finally, someone suggested sedating the horse just enough to make it sluggish. The veterinarian on set objected, but the pressure mounted. They needed the shot. The schedule was already behind. Money was hemorrhaging daily. So they gave the horse a mild sedative and tried again. This time, it worked. The horse collapsed perfectly, dramatically, exactly as scripted. But when the scene wrapped and they tried to get the animal up, it wouldn't respond. Something had gone wrong. The horse died 20 minutes later. The vet said it was an allergic reaction to the sedative, something impossible to predict. Wayne was devastated. He ordered a full investigation, new protocols, and personally paid for the horse's burial, but the guilt stayed with him. Years later, when asked about regrets from the Alamo, he'd mention that horse before anything else. One perfect shot, one dead animal, and a stain on a film about sacrifice that nobody wanted. The movie almost had a completely different ending. In Wayne's original vision, the film wouldn't end with the battle. It would continue forward, showing Sam Houston's revenge at San Jacinto, the birth of Texas independence, the ultimate meaning behind the sacrifice. He shot hours of additional footage, battle sequences, victory speeches, emotional reunions. It was meant to be the payoff, the reason the Alamo mattered. But when the rough cut came in at over 4 hours long, the studio revolted. Test audiences grew restless. Even Wayne's most loyal supporters admitted the pacing dragged. So, the decision was made: cut everything after the Alamo falls. End on sacrifice, not victory. Wayne fought it viciously. He screened his full cut for friends, for colleagues, begging them to see his vision. But everyone said the same thing: it's too long, it's too much. The power is in the tragedy, not the aftermath. Finally, reluctantly, Wayne made the cut. 90 minutes of footage hit the editing room floor. Sam Houston's scenes vanished. The San Jacinto battle disappeared. And the Alamo ended in silence, death, and defeat. When Wayne saw the final version, he didn't speak for hours. He knew they were right. The shorter version was tighter, more powerful, more emotionally devastating. But that didn't make it easier. Somewhere in a vault, there's a 4-hour version of the Alamo that almost was. Wayne tried to get it released later, but the footage had deteriorated, been lost, scattered. The complete vision he'd fought for existed only in his memory, and when he died, it died with him. The film's release was accompanied by one of the most aggressive Oscar campaigns Hollywood had ever seen, but it backfired spectacularly. Wayne didn't just promote the Alamo, he weaponized it. Full-page ads appeared in Variety and The Hollywood Reporter with slogans like, "What will Oscar say to the world this year?" The implication was clear. Voting against the Alamo meant voting against America itself. Wayne personally called Academy members, lobbied at parties, made speeches linking the film to patriotism and freedom. He even suggested that anyone who didn't support the film was somehow un-American. The campaign was unprecedented, aggressive, and deeply uncomfortable. Many Academy members resented the pressure. They didn't want to be bullied into voting. Critics who'd been lukewarm on the film suddenly turned hostile, offended by the implication that artistic merit and political loyalty were the same thing. When Oscar night arrived, the Alamo received 7 nominations, including Best Picture. Wayne sat in the audience, confident, expecting at minimum a few wins to validate his 13-year journey. He won nothing except Best Sound. Not directing, not picture, not supporting actor. The losses stung, but worse was the whispered consensus. The campaign had killed it. Wayne's aggressive tactics had turned voters off, made them resist out of principle. Years later, Academy members admitted they'd voted against the Alamo specifically because of how it had been promoted. Wayne never publicly acknowledged the mistake, but privately, friends said he understood. He had overplayed his hand, confused patriotism with quality, and paid the price. The Alamo was good, maybe even great, but greatness surrounded by demands isn't greatness anymore. It's just noise. One scene nearly killed the entire production before filming even began. During pre-production tests, a massive explosion was rigged to blow out a section of the Alamo wall. It was meant to be spectacular, the kind of pyrotechnic moment that would make audiences gasp. The crew set the charges, cleared the area, and triggered the blast. But something went catastrophically wrong. The explosion was 3 times bigger than planned. The concussive force shattered windows in buildings half a mile away. Debris rained down across the set. A piece of stone the size of a basketball landed inches from where Wayne had been standing moments before. If he'd still been there, it would have killed him instantly. The shockwave knocked several crew members off their feet. One man suffered a ruptured eardrum. Another had burns on his arms from flying embers. Fire marshals arrived within the hour, threatening to shut everything down. The local sheriff investigated, filed reports, questioned the special effects team. For 3 days, production hung in limbo. Wayne met with officials, insurance adjusters, safety inspectors. He promised new protocols, hired additional supervisors, personally guaranteed no more unsanctioned explosions. Behind all the historical grandeur and patriotic speeches, the Alamo was really a story about John Wayne working through his own demons. Wayne had never served in World War II. While other Hollywood stars enlisted, fought, and became genuine heroes, Wayne stayed behind, making movies. He received deferment after deferment, partly due to his age and family status, partly due to studio pressure. But the guilt haunted him. For years, he'd been playing soldiers, warriors, heroes, all while knowing he'd never actually been one. The Alamo became his confession, his attempt to prove something to himself. He poured every ounce of his unspent patriotism into it. The speeches about sacrifice, about standing for something bigger than yourself, about dying for freedom, those weren't just dialogue. They were Wayne's manifesto, his justification, his apology. Friends close to him said making the Alamo changed him. He stopped talking about the war. He stopped making excuses. Instead, he threw himself into supporting veterans, raising money, visiting hospitals, doing everything he could to make up for what he saw as his failure. The film wasn't just entertainment, it was penance. And every scene where Crockett talks about duty, about standing when others would run, those were Wayne talking to himself, trying to become the hero he'd always played but never been. The Alamo didn't erase his guilt, but it gave him a way to carry it. And maybe that's why he fought so hard for it. It risked everything for it. Because it wasn't just a movie, it was his last stand too. The film's premiere was supposed to be a triumph. Instead, it turned into a near riot. The event was held in San Antonio, just miles from the actual Alamo. Thousands of people showed up, far more than expected. The streets clogged with traffic. The theater couldn't hold everyone. Crowds pushed against barricades, demanding entry. Police struggled to maintain order. Inside, Wayne sat nervously as the film unreeled. He'd seen it dozens of times in editing, but this was different. This was Texas. These were people who lived the history, who revered the Alamo as sacred ground. If they rejected his vision, everything he'd built would crumble. The opening scenes played to polite applause. But as the film progressed, the audience grew restless. People whispered, some walked out. Not many, but enough to notice. Wayne's face went pale. During the final battle, the theater fell silent. When the Mexican flag rose over the Alamo ruins and the screen faded to black, nobody moved. The silence stretched on, agonizing, eternal. Years after the Alamo's release, a dark rumor started circulating. During filming, a stuntman had died, and Wayne covered it up. The story spread through Hollywood, whispered in bars, repeated in memoirs. Some claimed the man died during the final battle sequence, crushed when a wall collapsed. Others said he drowned in the river during a retreat scene. Still others insisted he'd been shot accidentally with a real bullet mixed in with blanks. The truth is messier and sadder. No stuntman died on the Alamo set, but 3 were seriously injured, and 1 was paralyzed from the waist down after a fall from the mission wall that wasn't properly rigged. Wayne's production company settled quietly, paid medical bills, provided a pension, and made the man sign a non-disclosure agreement. The injured stuntman took the money and disappeared. His name never appeared in press materials. His accident was never publicly acknowledged, and over time, the story mutated, grew darker, until injury became death and settlement became cover-up. Wayne knew about the rumors. Friends told him to set the record straight, release the truth, clear his name. But he refused. Maybe because the truth, a man paralyzed for life because of his film, felt almost as bad as the rumor. Maybe because he was ashamed, or maybe because by then, he'd learned that sometimes the legend matters more than the facts. And the Alamo, more than any of his films, taught him how easily truth becomes myth, and myth becomes something you can never control. The film's financial performance crushed Wayne. Despite decent reviews and strong word of mouth, the Alamo didn't make enough money to cover its massive budget. Domestic box office was solid, but not spectacular. International sales were weak. Audiences in Europe and Asia didn't care about the Alamo. Why would they? It was an American story, American martyrdom, American mythology. And in 1960, American exceptionalism didn't play well overseas. The film lost money. Not catastrophically, but enough to matter. Enough that Wayne spent the next 5 years paying off debts. He took roles he didn't want, made movies he didn't believe in, all to cover what the Alamo cost him. His dream project became his anchor. Friends watched him age during those years. The optimism that had fueled the Alamo drained away, replaced by cynicism and exhaustion. He never directed another film on that scale, never risked everything again. The Alamo taught him that passion wasn't enough, that believing in something didn't guarantee success, and that sometimes the things you love most destroy you. The Alamo fort that Wayne built still stands today. After filming wrapped, the studio wanted to tear it down, reclaim the land, write it off as a loss. But Wayne wouldn't allow it. He'd put too much into it, sacrificed too much. So he bought the set outright, turned it into a permanent tourist attraction called Alamo Village, and opened it to the public. For years, he'd visit quietly, walking those streets alone, remembering. The site became a functioning movie ranch. Other films shot there. TV shows used it. Westerns, commercials, music videos. But nothing ever matched the scale of what Wayne built. Slowly, the fort deteriorated. Texas sun bleached the wood. Rain eroded the walls. Tourists carved their names into doors. By the 1980s, it was falling apart. Preservationists tried to save it, but money was scarce. Then something unexpected happened. A new generation discovered the Alamo through VHS, then DVD, then streaming. People who'd never seen it in theaters fell in love with Wayne's vision. During filming, Wayne kept a private journal. Nobody knew about it until after his death, when his family found it among his belongings. In it, he wrote about the shoot, the struggles, the doubts. One entry, dated 3 weeks before the end of production, simply reads, "I don't know if this will work. I don't know if anyone will care, but I had to try. A man has to stand for something, even if he stands alone." That entry was never meant for publication, never meant to be shared. It was just Wayne, exhausted and uncertain, talking to himself in the darkness. When his son read it years later, he cried, because he realized the Alamo was never really about 1836. It was about 1960, about a man trying to prove something to a world that had moved on, about sacrifice, stubbornness, and the terrible price of refusing to quit. Wayne stood alone. He built his fort. He told his story. And whether anyone remembers it or not, whether anyone cares or not, he did it. And maybe that was enough.